Hey, Jay here. We're with a brand new bike, and this is a 2020 Yamaha YZ250FX. This is a bike we've really been looking forward to riding. We liked the old FX. The new FX has all the updates that the motocross bike got last year, so we're looking forward to riding it. Check it out right now. Okay, so this new YZ250FX is, as I said, based on the motocross bike, and this FX didn't get these updates last year. It gets them all now. That's kind of how they work the rotation, and Yamaha's now given the FX all these new things with the electric start is mounted rearward, new cylinder head, larger diameter clutch, so it's a stronger clutch in there, a different battery setup, increased compression, new exhaust and muffler, and it has all the chassis updates that give it a lighter feel. I'm not sure how much of that stuff we're going to feel if you're just trail riding, but anyway, you get those frame updates and so forth that we felt when we tested the WR. Again, on trail riding, it was really hard to tell the big differences, but the bike did feel better. I think we're going to feel more of that on the track in our comparison. That's what we'll see. It does have the new bodywork that is thinner at the shrouds, like where your knee is, and it has a lower seat height, which has kind of been a problem with the Yamahas being a little taller, especially in the rear, smacking you in the rear end. So that's nice. It has all these updates that we have liked on the 19 and 20 YZ250F motocross bike. It is tuned for off-road racing and riding. It has an easier to use power. You have to remember, this bike is really not intended as just a pure trail bike, but we know a lot of people are going to want to use this bike as a trail bike as their main source of riding. It does have an easier to use type power than the motocross bike, is what Yamaha is trying to push, and a lighter clutch feel than the motocross bike, because I think they're putting in lighter springs, give it a lighter feel in there. It has a new air filter setup from the 19 FX, so it's not quite as loud as it was before in that sucking you in feeling that we felt in the past. The chassis, they've done some other things to the chassis with engine mounts and the frame things. Again, a lot of that stuff's going to be very hard to tell comparison just testing if you're not back to back on the same bikes and a really good skill set. It does have the 6-speed transmission. That's a wide ratio, so it's not just simply adding a 6th gear. The ratios are different than the motocross bike, and like first they go 13-14 on the motocross bike, 31-13 on the FX, so a lower first gear, and then second gear on the motocross bike, 28-16 on the FX, 29-16. So getting close back to itself. And then again, it looks like on third, where the same, fourth gets taller, and fifth taller again, and of course sixth, no comparison because the motocross bike doesn't have a 6. We'll try to put a photo of that in here so you can kind of see the differences in those ratios. Also, there's some added benefits of fuel, low light, so you can see if if you're going to be running out of fuel, you want to see that. So it's kind of nice on an off-road version. You get a warning light. I don't know how much longer you can ride on fuel with that warning light coming on, but you get that warning light. You can add an accessory fan. They have a plug-in place deal for an accessory fan, like a Trailtech fan, and I think Yamaha has a fan you can add in. Of course, one of the big differences between the bikes is the FX has the 18-inch rear wheel. If you're going to have this bike long-term and you want to ride it on the track and back and forth and have more of a choice of tires, you could run a 19-inch rear wheel off of a YZF and run it on the FX bike. No reason you can't do that. And of course, you have the kickstand and an O-ring chain, and the tank is 0.6 gallons larger than the F tank, the motocross tank. It comes with the engine guard, for the skid plate there on the bottom of the frame. That's a composite. I like these because they're lightweight, they're not too rigid, and you get a good feel, no extra vibration. So I like that for protection. Okay, so there's also a map switch on the bars. A lot of times it can be hard to tell the main differences in these two switches, but one of the nice things is that you're going to be able to put in your own maps, and you're gonna share maps with your friends. We've liked this feature with the Yamaha, and being able to look at the maintenance log on your phone and reset it every time you change the oil and so forth. You can keep an eye on that. That's one thing that's really nice about the map switch on these. For those that aren't familiar with the Yamaha tuning, they had this tool before where it was like a tool in your hand, but now with it being Wi-Fi to your phone, you can actually kind of see some of the ways in which you can make those changes. Yamaha a lot of times will also post some recommended changes or more race settings that you can run. Within the tuning tool, you can also name tracks, those types of things. That's a lot of work. I think it's great just to be able to see your kind of hours and do any of those changes you want to make. So this YZ250FX retails for $84.99, $8,500. That is around $1,500 less range, I would say, maybe $1,000 less than the Austria brands of a similar XCF. So that gives you a little bit of a reference. Again, one of the few things that I would complain about not coming on the bike is handguards. I think it should at least come with some hand shields for those. At least you have something so you can go off-roading straight away. We like to run wraparounds. That gives you a rough idea of that. And a lot of people really rave about this bike. Kyle being one of them. He likes this bike. He has a few gripes here and there. He's been picking on the bike, but he really does seem to like the bike. And I think one of the reasons is because it is based so much on the motocross bike that you get a real good motocross aggressive feel. So we're going to put a little more time on this thing right now and report back to you. Okay, so this FX, to answer the first question, I do think it's probably better for a lot of guys than the WR. But with that said, it's like, it's more of an aggressive ride bike than a WR. So this 4-stroke power is pretty fun in spots. That I got so used to 2 strokes in the trail. But this first gear is almost too low. Let's see here. That's how quick it times out. Hey, Jay here. We're back with this YZ250FX, and one of our favorite places to ride it is Kauai because we got some trails and track to compare it to, and we really like it. As you can see on the track, it did very well. I was very impressed, and we haven't changed the mapping on this at all. We're still running the stock, mode selector, and just in the fastest one, and that seems good. In our motorbike, we have played with some different maps, and that's something that I think we probably will do with this one. So the bike is more than capable on the track, and the bigger difference from this to the Hondas, comparing those things, this bike has a different transmission, has the wide ratio transmission that the WR has that we've talked about. And so maybe you shift a little bit more on the track than you might like to, and even on the trail, you're shifting a little bit more than maybe you would on some other bikes. On a motorbike, where you're carrying it out, first gear is pretty low, and we're in second gear and even the tight stuff, but overall pretty good. And the suspension, while it's a little bit soft for the track, it's not bad. Even for our bigger size, the thing is really good on the track. We're pretty happy with it. For stock suspension, you could ride this thing on the track. On the trail, the suspension's really good, and we think it's pretty impressive what we think of this thing. So this FX, comparing it to the WR that we tested a while back, I think it's a lot better bike for guys, like I've said before, and I kind of thought so then, that are a little bit more aggressive, who used to race, that kind of stuff. Although the WR is still a really good bike, I think it really has a market that's maybe better for, if you're not into as aggressive riding and that kind of thing, I think the WR is going to be the better choice. This bike, if you don't care about the the headlight and that kind of stuff with the WR, you do get the added benefit of the larger tank, got the little gauges here for your fuel. This is going to be a really good trail bike. I like that it comes with a skid plate. I don't like that it doesn't come with handguards. We're going to do some longer term stuff with this bike with Rado and some stuff I do. We're probably going to end up putting wraparounds on it and making it just full on, just just trail and put a lot of time on this thing on the trail over the next months and year. I mean, for a long time. So we really like this bike. I'm really impressed. For tight stuff, I think we might consider adding the fan, because I think this thing is probably going to get hot in there. One of the things on this bike, you know, that who's this bike best for? And I've been riding two strokes a lot. Now, if you're you like that power on the trail of a two-stroke 250 or a 300 like a KTM or a XC 300, 250, 300, I think you're going to be a little disappointed in this type of power. This is a lot easier to ride power, but there's going to be places where you're going to go, I wish I had a little more power. Maybe some hill climbs and little tougher stuff to get up, where you're going to be like, I wish I had a little bit more. This bike is, I think, really good, especially for smaller guys and younger guys. I think they're going to be happier maybe on this versus a 250, two-stroke, or 300. So I'm totally fine riding it. Spencer's been spending a lot of time on this and also our RX, and he's been liking them on the trails. Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like he's been liking them a lot. So which do you choose? If you're a four-stroke guy, you choose this. If you're a two-stroke guy, you choose your two-stroke. But compared to a YZ250X, a lot less vibration in this bike, smoother, easier to ride. But the 250X has a little bit more power, of course, in most places. There's no way around it. It's going to have more staff, more power for bigger hills, those types of things. It's going to have more power. But this bike is just a really good bike. I don't have really a ton of complaints. I wish it had a hydraulic clutch like the KTM. But the clutch is buttery smooth, and if you're not abusive on the clutch, you're not going to have to adjust it a ton. So the clutch is really impressive. I do think the narrower position on the bike, you know, thickness through here is really nice. I feel really comfortable on the bike. Which is something that I didn't used to on older Yamahas. When they switched to this style bike, you know, the motor changed around, all that in 14, the bike felt bulky and heavier. It definitely feels trimmed down and a lot lighter feeling. On the trail, this bike is really, really good and a good bike on the track. So I think if you're looking for a off-road bike to maybe race, GNCC type stuff or any type of that kind of stuff for a smaller guy, I think this is going to be a great bike. I wish they had a 350 in between these two bikes, because the jump from this to a 450FX is massive. Big difference in these two bikes from this to that. But anyway, this is an amazing bike, and I don't think you can go wrong. So hopefully we'll see you out in the track or trail soon.